rabbis of yesteryear. Now, the 23rd of Av, Chav Gimel Av, will mark the Hilula of a very famous rabbi in his time period, without doubt, founder of the Mikveh Yisrael school system in Turkey. His name was Rabbi Baruch Mitrani. Very, very famous rabbi. I believe he was born in the year 1847. He passed away in the year 1919. Much can be said within regards to him. I think we mentioned him on various occasions before in this series. He was a man of the congregation, let's just say. He was an educator. He was a poet also. He was known as a journalist also. He wrote various different things. He was definitely a Zionist, that's one thing for sure. And he would have, I think, connections with Eliezer ben Yehuda and other people, let's just say, and really, really believed in reviving the Hebrew language. He actually dedicated in building an entire school, I believe, in Turkey with regards to that, as we're going to learn as this video progresses here on this special edition over here. And he really, really one of the forerunners of Zionism, you could say. And he really did advocate to a big degree from a Torah point of view to some angle, while he was very, very worldly at the same time. I think he had methods of teaching for younger children, for adults, with teaching various different schools. And I think he knew various different languages in of itself. Let's explore a few of the highlights of the famous rabbi's life. Okay, so he would learn under auspices of his father, Rabbi Mitrani. I think a rabbi we've also spoken about on various occasions before. He would actually, I think he was, if I'm not mistaken, his father was a Hebrew teacher at Talmud Torah in his city. I think he was born in the year 1847 in an area called Kilari in Thrace in Turkey, respectively. Now, I haven't mentioned that place so much. Now, while he was young, Rabbi Baruch was known as a very sharp and a talented student. In his youth, let's just say he was drawn towards studying various different languages. He read a lot of materials and studied with another famous, let's just say, rabbi at that point in time, famous historian, famous traveler, Rabbi Yosef Halevi, as someone mentioned about on various occasions before. Well, I believe Rabbi Yosef Halevi himself would start up a Torah school in Edirne. And I remember, I think Rabbi Yosef Halevi had ties, let's just say, to many people that you could say were associated within regards to the Haskalah movement also. So you could say, so they were worldly people. So we're talking about that. Now, I think it was year 1864, around that time period. He would actually travel with his father to Edirne over there. He would get married to the daughter of Rabbi Shlomo Razon, who happened to be from Edirne. And I think he would move to the city of Yambol over there. I think over there at that stage in time, if I'm not mistaken, his father would be principal of the school. I think the Kol Yisrael Chaverim, the Alliance school system over there, and he would serve as a Hebrew teacher. Now we're going to go on to this more. He saw the revival, let's just say, the Hebrew language as, part of like the beginning of the redemption, to some say. He saw the importances within regards to that, and really, really tried to bring about Torah stories in Hebrew. And we're going to speak about the founding of Mikveh Yisrael school in Edirne, which would teach Hebrew exclusively. At the same time, would publish many articles in newspapers at that point on. Now, the Mikveh Yisrael school, if I'm not mistaken, now I don't know if it would be a very Torah-oriented school when it actually forms in Israel. That it starts off that way, but I think later on it does become similar to the Alliance, let's just say, in of itself. Now, we could say more. When he was young, he would actually, the education he got, I think, was a private education from his father. And he would learn Torah and Talmud over there. And I think it was actually, we mentioned about Rav Halevi before, he would meet in a din and would actually bring him into education of studying languages and reading many books. I think at that point in time, I think there was a court system over there. And in this court system, that featured another person, I think we mentioned, Rabbi Yosef Danon, who was a member of the local court. And Rabbi Yosef Danon, will actually see the potential in Rabbi Mitrani. And I think even at Bar Mitzvah, if we just go back a little bit, he received from the city rabbis an important title over there, which would be associated to mature rabbis. He already was, and he would go into yeshivot to study, and was very sharp with the questions, and so on and so forth. We mentioned about in 1864, he'd get married to the daughter of Rabbi Shlomo Razon, and as we mentioned about before, his father would actually go and become a principal, I think, and very much, I think it will go to the Republic of Bulgaria over there. to the school system. Then it's interesting. He would start writing poems at that point in time, a composition, I think, with Tiferet Binyamin, and he would begin to send, let's say, instructional. He would send various different teachings or instructions, which he dealt with, I think, to Constantinople, articles in Ladino newspapers. I think targeting, let's say, children. He tried to establish a new method for spreading Hebrew education and tried to really revive the language. He saw in the synagogues, he tried to bring about, the idea of Torah, Zionism. He was a Hebrew educator. He wanted it to be embraced in various different places. It was actually Rabbi Yosef Alevi would have to leave Edirne at that stage in time, and Rabbi Mitrani will replace him in his position in the Jewish school in the city. Well, I think his father was appointed to serve at that point in time as the head of school at that stage in time. So he would be a Hebrew teacher over there, while his father was at the teacher's school. He worked to make Hebrew. He was a Hebrew talented educator who was seen about. He saw it was a new time period, let's just say, and he wanted to bring up ideas, and he published articles in various different publications, including the Safira. I think that was a publication at that point in time. One of the Hebrew newspapers that was published, I think, especially in the Jewish world, in the 19th and 20th century. There was also the Lebanon, which we've spoken about on various occasions before, a newspaper in Palestine, which I think was distributed in Jerusalem, Mainz, and London, and I think connected to Yechiel Brill. The Habatzelet, another newspaper, which you mentioned about before, I think, which was based, I think, between the years 1870 to 1911. I think maybe goes on a bit more before. And there was a Magid also, which was published, I think, from 1856 to 1903. I think in Prussia, later in Berlin, in Krakow, and all those different places, respectively. And he tried to bring in more changes in the Jewish education in the Balkans, and wanted, maybe, I don't know if it was more worldly or not, but definitely more worldly. Obviously, he wanted to revive the Hebrew language into practice. So he would establish a school just educating in Hebrew, the Mikveh Yisrael in Edirne. Now, we've spoken about that before. Rabbi Levi Ragusa would have some sort of a connection, I think, as one of the founders, maybe in Eretz Yisrael, of this school system. As I don't know if it does stay on to be a religiously oriented school or not. Someone did say that maybe it became too worldly at one stage in time, but that you'd have to research itself. I think they would have 200 students or something associated at its peak, and the primary language was Hebrew over there. They would try and bring about a spoken vocational training of the language in itself, and he tried to combine Torah with crafts in the school. He was a pioneer in Edirne, and I think his approach was then adopted by the Alliance school system, if I'm not mistaken. I think there was a synagogue over there, and some sort of study hall was also built in the mikveh. And I think there was various different plays they will bring about within regards to Adam and Chava, biblical stories. I think they would actually try and engage the Jewish community with, maybe connected to Purim and other stories from Tanakh. Once again, I'm not so sure much of their insides and outs within regards to that. And if I'm not mistaken, he saw, I think, the Alliance school system over there, and he was worried that Alliance school system itself didn't really do enough Jewish studies over there inside the schools. He thought that, the Judaism to put inside the schools will help people in the outer world. The idea, I think, in his world was not to make the people more Western, but if you're in a Western place in of itself, environment, to bring the Judaism to it, let's just say, in of itself. So he sought that Jewish identity was crucial as part of the modern education to strengthen Torah at the time, Judaism, and so on and so forth. But I'm not too sure over there. So I think I would recommend everyone to learn more about that. Now, it's actually interesting. He would eventually leave Edirne at that stage in time. We mentioned about how he would write many articles. I think he would move to Sofia, Bulgaria, where he'd serve as a teacher over there. Once again, I think at the Alliance school system there. He would then go on to travel to Vienna. He would meet someone with the name Peretz Smolenskin, one of the leaders, let's just say. You could say he was of the Haskalah movement over there. From there, he would travel to Germany. He would meet with Rabbi Yehuda Alker, I remember, one of the famous rabbis of his time, one of the forerunners of Zionism. We've spoken about him before. I think we recorded a video about him on Yom Ha'atzmaut about a year plus ago. And he would found a journal called Kami. I don't know if that was under his thing. I think it was published in the city of Pressburg. It was half actually in Hebrew, half in Ladino. And I think, sadly, his father would pass away. And he would then return to the city of Edirne to, because I think his brothers was there, and he would re-establish a school system, calling it the Akedat Yitzchak, after his father at that point in time. It's actually interesting. Another rabbi we mentioned about various occasions before, actually in the Turkish Rabbinical Seminary video we did, the special edition, Rabbi Abraham Danon would join the school staff over there. And I think over there, the Dorshei Haskalah Association would be started, if I'm not mistaken, and he'll continue his publishing works at that stage in time. So we're talking about this move to... So just going back to it again, where he traveled to Vienna, which you just mentioned about, we met someone named Peretz Smolensky. I think he happened to be a Hebrew writer and a publicist, and part of the Love of Zion movement in of itself. He was very much into culture and so on and so forth. I think also he would, as well as contributing to many of these newspapers, I think he would be in contact with Rabbi Moshe Alkalai, who was had a prominent role in Hebrew printing in the House of Pressburg. So someone named Rabbi Moshe Alkalai, I haven't really mentioned more about him, and they would, let's say, collaborate on various different issues regarding a monthly newsletter, I think, if I'm not mistaken. And that's how I think he would actually learn that Rabbi Yehuda Alkalai was staying in this place, the Baden-Baden place in Germany, and they would actually then, let's say, collaborate at that point in time. There was, so I think they were close with someone named Adolf Yitzhak Jacob, who was a French Jewish Kremiox, a statesman, who was a minister of justice in France. I think they would have been in contact with him. I think maybe he had a central role in the Alliance school system. I think he received the name Kami over there, and various different writings at that point in time would be written in of itself. He would be involved not just in printing, educational and learning books. I think in Vienna they would actually make, he would receive news, let's just say. So that's very, very interesting. So he would move back to Edin after his father passed away, and over there he would restore a school system, make the Akedat Yitzchak in memory of his father, would serve over there in the school. Rabbi Abraham Danon will become a teacher there, I think, connected to Hebrew grammar, and very much were teaching French inside the school, Talmud, and would be a principal in of itself. There was very some people in the city, and as we said before, they formed this this Haskalah associated movement over there together, I think, with Abraham Danon. I think there was tough times in Edirne with regards to a financial point of view, and he would offer services to the Turkish press over there with regards to Hebrew, and as a Bible teacher also. He continued publishing the monthly Kami over there, and however, a lot of these publications, I think, had strict government censorship of press, if I'm not mistaken, and that would take a toll into work. I think the government would even criticize him over there, but he would really, really try and encourage people to make Aliyah to the land of Israel at that stage in time. He was very, very advocating to that at a huge level. I think when he returns to Vienna in 1876, he prints books over there, which he would write in Ladino. And then in 1880, he would move back to the city of Constantinople, where he'd establish a school system over there under someone called Moshe Bar Natan. I don't know much about it. And he, let's just say at that point in time, so that is interesting. I have to know more information with regard to that. But I think he really tried to encourage people to settle the land of Israel at that point in time, and activities with regards to Zionism in Turkey. And I think there was assistance from the Bar Natan family over there in 1882, but I think his supreme role was eventually immigrate with his family to Jerusalem. And at that point in time, I think eventually the Kami monthly publication would eventually cease. And yes, that's very, very interesting. Now, I believe afterwards, more moves will take place. I think in 1882, he would make immigration to the land of Israel and settle in Jerusalem. He would live in the Nachlat Shiva neighborhood and became friends with another rabbi, Rabbi Tziv Yavetz, person we've spoken about before over there. He was a writer, historian, and educator, and one of the founders of the Mizrahi movement. I think he was actually Polish. Also was part of the, let's say, revival of Hebrew process at that point in time. Then there was another rabbi over there. He became, not another rabbi, another famous person, Eliezer ben Yehuda. He would have association with over there also. One of the famous, let's say, people with regards to the Zionistic movement over there, without a doubt. So he would have form a connection with him. Also, Rabbi Yisrael Dov Frumkin, also And I think it was at that point in time that there would be the beginning of the Havatzelet newspaper, and he would be part of it, if I'm not mistaken. Now, it's actually interesting. He would also be an educator of the Rishon LeZion, the chief rabbi's sons. At that point in time, he to be Hebrew teacher of them. The chief rabbi at the time was Rabbi Yaakov Shaul Elisha, a very great rabbi. He was between the years 1893 and to 1906, the Rishon LeZion of Jerusalem, part of the head of the Jewish court over there. So that was very, very prominent. He would see the activities. I think he'd be in contact with someone named Ziv Wilhelm Herzberg, who was a Prussian Jewish writer and educator, respectively. Once again, one of the founders of the first Hebrew orphanage in Jerusalem, also respectively. And he'd be in connection with him. And yes, that's very, very interesting. He really tried to bring about, it was a time period where many people start coming to Eretz Yisrael. I think it was in 1887. He would actually return to Constantinople at that point in time. And but I think he would have to leave the city and return to Edirne later on. He would, it's reported over, he would sell his father's estate and return to Vienna, going back into the publishing business, publishing his journal. This time it will change name. I think it would be, as you translate in English, My Vineyards, of Karmi Sheli, if I'm not mistaken. Then come on the year 1894, he would return to Jerusalem, earned a living. I think we'd have a shop over there. He would found a weekly in Ladino and Hebrew publication, and it would have been tough to sustain it. And he would be appointed director of Talmud Torah, called Torah, or of the Sephardi community in Jaffa itself. But I don't think this Talmud Torah itself would last that long period of time. 1897 would see him return, I believe, to Adriana once again over there. So you can see he's coming and going constantly. He would move to live with his son over there in his hometown, Kirklari. After 2 years, then he would eventually move to Sofia in Bulgaria, remember, and resume publishing, I think, his book, the Karmi Sheli. He would then go on to move to Rus, where he would publish a magazine over there under the name Hashalom. This magazine was. Now, after that, he would move to Belgrade now, eventually. There would serve as a teacher and the principal of a school. Now, come with the year 1908, he traveled to Vienna. I think at that point in time, he wasn't feeling 100%. He would have to take heart surgery on. He would recover over there and then would go to Adrianople and devote much of his time, let's just say, to studying Torah and writing various different works. Now, I believe he passed away on the 23rd of Av. In the English year, it was 1919. We're talking about 106 years ago. Here, from the time of recording, and I think he was, if I'm not mistaken, he was buried in Adin, respectively. He would author 39 books and 8 plays, I think, textbook, the Chinochi Banim, which was a method of learning grammar in Hebrew, was published in print, if I'm not mistaken. We can say just a few more about him. In of itself, much was chronicled within regards to his time period over there. I think in the last years of his life, he would really rarely leave home. He would be studying the whole time. I think a few months before his passing, he was in contact with Rabbi Chaim Berijano, who would become, I think, chief rabbi of Romania and Turkey and head the Sephardi community in Bucharest for 32 years. He was also a Hebrew poet and a scholar of Ladino language. So he would be in contact with him. I think he would be presented with certificates of appreciation, encouragement. Also, I think the World Brotherhood Association, the Agudat Achva, if I'm not mistaken, he have a connection to various representatives. I think there was someone named Rabbi Avram Ben Menachem would be in contact with him also. Now, his daughter, Sarah, was born, I believe, in the year 1899. He describes the home which she grew up in as a spiritual home where people would come to visit to hear, learn and consult, ask her questions to her father. It was a warm, loving and welcoming home. That gives an idea within regards to the infrastructure he actually built inside his house, which he adopted over there. Now, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, so he passed away on the 23rd of Av, and he left behind 3 sons and 4 daughters, I believe. I think 4 of the children came from his first wife, if I'm not mistaken, Yitzhak, Bea, Shlomo, and Mazal Tov. And sadly, I think she passed away. He would get married to Rabbi Mitrani. And I think they would have 3 children, if I'm not mistaken. I'll have to, double check that. I think 3 children. Chaim, Victoria, and Sarah. Sarah, we just mentioned just right now. So he was, let's just say he wrote a lot of poetry, just going back to it. And I think there's an expert, Shlomo Haramati, who's a linguist education expert over there, and also formulation of teaching methods. He would speak much about within regards to his poetry. He also wrote rhymes, proverbs, articles, writing topics, I think, within regards to the revival of Hebrew language, settlement of Eretz Israel, and all these the return to Zion, let's just say, in himself, settling down. He published hundreds of articles in Judeo-Sephardic journalists, also in various different places. He would pen, I think, the name Binyamin, if I'm not mistaken, and especially in the latter part of the 19th century, would be very involved with the Hamagid, the Havatzelet, the Halavanon, various different places itself, and authored large number of books. But I think only a few of them will get published at the end. Much of the work will get lost at a later stage of time. He was obviously a formal educator. He was a founder of the Mikveh Yisrael School in Edirne. He was an educator, a principal. He was a master of many languages. Dictionaries. He would be a very one of his actions, as I said before, in which he preceded Eliezer Yehuda, was reviving Hebrew language. So many people will associate Eliezer ben Yehuda as forerunners of Zionism, but it was actually you could say arguably it was him that really tried to push the Hebrew language in of itself. So he was very, very well traveled all throughout that point in time. Very, very let's just say, and we'll try and educate the people of all different types, young people, to really get back into Hebrew and bring about the study of Orpan, and did try and emphasize the importance of Jewish study and Jewish culture, I think, in various different levels in itself. And he really was a Zionist that really believed in bringing people back to Eretz Yisrael, especially Romanian Jews, I think. Places from Eastern Europe he would be, and I think he would be in robust a bit with Aaron Yehuda Horowitz, if I'm not mistaken, at some stages of time, and really bring about this. I'd recommend, let's just explore a few of his works that he actually left. There's actually many of them. I think they've got actually titles over here. We'll just go through them. Bi'ur Banim, Chidushim on Nevi'im and Ketuvim on the Tanakh, respectively. The Divrei Banim, which was on the Shas. The Zichronei Banim, this was another book, which was on Mishlei and Musar. The Chakrei Banim, this was another one that was published in Jerusalem. The Chei Banim, this was another Torah Drashot on also, I think, in Ivrit and Ladino. Michtavei Banim, many of these books have the title Banim in it. Mishlei Banim. Arvei Banim, another Pinnei Banim, for example, which is the Mechaya Banim, the Pirchei Banim, the Tzionei Banim, various different rules, also on Chidushim and various things, the Shirei Banim, Shirim, and Chidot, poems or rhymes or questions over there, let's just say, for praise and thanks. Shum'u Banim, Toldot Banim, which was, I think, chronicling maybe his family, the Chazan Ro'eh. There was a Chidushim v'Agaot Laturim. There was a Korot Haskala Ba'olam, and the Baruch HaShlishi, Mukor Baruch, which is the Peruch on the Baruch HaShlishi. There was a Torah Or, the Yisodot Hadat Musar, Hachut HaMishulash, and Mishu'al HaKramim. There was various different textbooks for children, which also we mentioned about before, including the Chinuchei Banim, the Amen Pedgog, I hope I pronounced it correctly, Zecher Rab, Yisodot HaLashon HaIvrit, Luach HaPa'alim Vosfot, Otza HaMilim HaDomot, the Toldot Avotenu, the Milon Ivrei Katzed, Darkei HaChinuch, and so on and so forth. There was various different Sipurim and Machazot, the various different plays he would bring about. I think connected to Don Yitzchak Bar Banel and his daughter, the Ezra and Nehemiah, two figures we see inside the Tanakh. Don Yosef Ubito, Adam V'Chava, Yosef and his brothers, the kingship of Shaul, Daniel in the lion's den, and Haman and Mordechai, respectively. So, as you can see, he was a lot is mentioned about him. He is seen as one of the forerunners of Zionism, also, which we have to point out, which is also very, let's just say, very, very interesting. Because we did speak about Rav Halevi Ragusa just quite recently over here, and other rabbis, Rabbi Yehuda Alkalai, who you could also say is a forerunner of Zionism also in his time, which is very interesting. But there were famous rabbis at that point in time, and he very much was one of them. So it will be good to hear more about him. They say that it's actually interesting. Rabbi Yehuda Alkalai lived between the years 1790 to 1878. 8, who was linked, let's just say, with bringing the people back in the national project. And he actually influenced many people in Europe, but the thought of Rabbi Baruch Mitrani, who lived between 1847 to 1919, was calling for the revival of Hebrew and was one of the most prominent advocates of settlement in Palestine, and he established settlement bodies in Palestine to which he immigrated and where he passed away at that point in time. So you could say that, just to add on to it, there was various rabbis of the East played major role in endorsement of Zionism at that stage in time. Especially, I think Jewish community in Egypt did also. And so we could learn much more within regards to that at that stage in time. So friends, don't forget to learn more about the famous rabbis of yesteryear. Here we're going really into Zionism territory, real science of recent Zionism, let's just say, in of itself. Remember, various different chief rabbis all over, I think, especially in Saloniki in Greece, they supported Zionism through various different places, including Rabbi Yaakov Meir, who will become a chief rabbi, Rabbi Yosef Naor, and so on and so forth. So wishing you all well, friends. And friends, we're a community here. We are learning about famous rabbis of yesteryear. If you descend from any of the famous rabbis we are speaking about, please send me an email. I would love to hear more information from you. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe to the channel now. We are nearing a staggering 7,000 subscribers, which is absolutely phenomenal achievement, and we're really touching on that. I think hopefully by Rosh Chodesh Elul we would have surpassed that without a doubt. If you feel anyone is interested in watching any of these videos, please share these videos also to other people also, and join the community, and hopefully we'll speak more, especially about this important topics, how everything came about, and so on and so forth. We're about to come inside Shabbat Parashat Ekev in Eretz Yisrael. It's going to be tonight, so wishing you all a Shabbat Shalom. And watch over all the previous other videos we've done. We've got a playlist of about 1,200 videos of the famous rabbis of yesteryear, so for you all to get educated and enjoy. But I would yourselves do research on the history of the great Rabbanim, and we're really concentrating on Ottoman Rabbanim, the North African Rabbanim, the Asian Rabbanim, and the Spanish Rabbanim over here in the series. So wishing you well. Thanks very much for watching.